Hello, Orpers. How we doing? All right. End of the day, you're all still doing really good. I'd like to hear it. Before we get started, I just wanted to say, as we've been making sure to make everyone aware here at the con, that we really want to take a moment to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories of many nations here, including the Anishinaabe and the Huron-Wendat. And this ancestral land on which we stand today is still home to many indigenous people, and we are very grateful to have the opportunity to be here. So thank you. All right, for those who are not aware, my name is Kevin Bachelder, and thank you. I co-host the Tales of the Black Badge podcast with Bonnie Farrar. And at this time, I would like to bring out our guests. Please welcome Megan Follows and Greg Lawson.
How's everybody doing? Nice outfit.
You're going to be able to hear everything with your ears, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah, she's got really good hearing.
Now, we've got several different topics we can talk about certainly here, but we're going to have a little fun, I think, here at the beginning, talking a little bit and kind of sticking to the topic of the panel, which is you folks as the parents of Purgatory. And all that kind of goes with that. So maybe for a little bit of fun, thinking as your characters.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
Maybe start off and talk about, we always hear as parents, as time goes on, things like cell phones and social media, all these things are a challenge with children. But we get demon revenants. So how would you folks be dealing with that as far as from a parental point of view?
I would take that cell phone away from that demon, and I would say, gonna limit your time, motherfucker, because you have had too much demon cell phone time. No.
Home before dark that takes on a whole new meaning in Purgatory. I don't know. Nedley, whenever I think about Chrissy, as lovely as his daughter is, I can't help start thinking about who's Chrissy's mom. And where did she come from? And what was their relationship? Is Nedley divorced or is he a widower? Hands up for divorced.
Not many.
Okay, you guys made the stronger dramatic choice. You are correct.
Now, another fun thing that's kind of been the theme of the weekend here at the con is the idea of Camp Earp. So if we kind of extend that to the two of you, if we can imagine that we've got the camp out in the woods, I suspect they'd put the two of you in charge of it.
Wow. Good luck.
Yes. Yeah. So with that in mind and knowing all of our cast of characters, how do you think you two would work together to keep those crazy folks in line?
I'm pretty sure it would be rodeo themed. Don't you think?
Yeah. I like that.
Where can you get little bulls for little kids to ride? I think they would have like a petting zoo of all just bulls and horses.
And they would just take that camping with them. They just bring that along.
Yeah.
That's when I take all the alcohol away from him and I keep it for myself. That's Mama Earp talking.
Oh, that's no fun.
You're on marshmallow duty.
Well, I don't think they would canoe very much. I just don't get that feeling.
I know. I think they're more glampers than campers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It'd be interesting food that they would cook over the fire. They would make up their own recipes. It wouldn't be chili because of the chili debacle.
And it wouldn't be turkey.
No.
Well, then again, it might be turkey. It might be my main dish.
Turkey chili. I'm just putting the two together.
I think we've got it. I think you're right.
Well, speaking of turkey, one of the questions I'll jump to it that came in, Megan was talking a little bit about the scene where you were making the turkey in the Christmas episode and how vibrantly you were cutting into that thing. And it seemed like you were taking out some frustrations that day on set or something.
I think Mama just she commits 100%. If she's going to clean a turkey, she's going to clean that turkey. You know what I mean? No half measures with her.
No, and speaking on the parental side, if we go back, Greg, for you, the end of season 1, go back quite a bit. As you recall, we had the whole problem with the whole town concerned they were poisoned and everything else. And Chrissy made that decision to kidnap Waverly.
Yeah.
So what would that conversation be like that night when she got home and you found out?
Well, that's just normal, Chrissy. No big surprise there. And that's why I keep asking, who Chrissy's mom is, because I don't know if she takes after Nedley. It's funny, when we shot that scene, when we filmed that scene, the party scene, it was the first time I met the actress who was playing Chrissy. So, and I went, by the way, this is your daughter. And and I went, well, what the heck do I do then as a father? Because I'm not a father. I was the fun uncle in my life. I don't know what it means to be a parent. And I thought, well, I guess I should try to protect her. I think that's what a father would do. But really, that's what Nedley does all the time, so it wasn't really anything new.
She didn't feel very special. Good job, Dad.
No, yeah, and I think it's like Chrissy knows her dad about as well as Nedley knows Chrissy. So I don't think there are many surprises. It's like, of course she did.
Yeah.
Now, for you folks, with the careers you've had, the different roles you've had, is it any different being in a genre show at all in terms of the way you approach what you're doing here?
I think you just have to expand your imagination for the rules of the world. But a genre in itself doesn't mean necessarily a different acting style. And it can, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. In this world, I didn't find it. So you're still committing, and there's it's infused with a naturalism. And yet what's natural are a set of circumstances that are outrageous and beyond what might be normal, unless some of you guys have demon friends and are doing all of that.
I agree with that. I think that, whether you're fighting a monster or you're the captain of a spaceship or committing
You're
to...
a social worker dropping off a young kid in a ranch.
Yeah. The job of an actor, I think, is to commit to the truth of the moment. And if that means that you're the captain of a spaceship pushing the button that fires it at the monsters, the enemy ship, or whether you're fighting a demon, or it's the same. You're just committing to the moment. You need to believe that that's a real danger. What is that saying, that actor saying? Like, a good story is ordinary people in an extraordinary situation, or extraordinary people in an ordinary situation. Both of them are equally entertaining. And genre work, I just think of a normal person who happens to be in that situation. You play a serial killer, you're not really a serial killer, you're an actor, But you can't think of that. You have to embrace the situation and play that as truthfully...
I'm just going to move over here a little bit.
As truthfully as you can.
Nice choice of character there.
And if your choice is to just be annoyed with people who cook turkeys all the time, then... well, that's enough actor talk from me.
Megan, I'd be interested to hear how you came to the role on the show.
Just kind of, honestly, I'd met Emily, and I'd had a conversation with her, and then the opportunity came up, and I auditioned for the role. So there was scenes. I was traveling, so I did a little self-tape, which is a big part of our lives now as actors.
Yeah.
We now audition, sort of on our own in hotel rooms in various places in the world. And really, for Emily, obviously, it was looking at something to see how I would work with Mel and with Dom, I would say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, touching on that a little bit in terms of you talking about the self-tape and all, aside from something like that, how has your profession changed for you in terms of how you kind of go after roles, or they come to you as things change in today's day and age?
I mean, there's always a bit of both. Hasn't necessarily changed. It's very nice when they come after you. But the truth is that for most of us and a lot of us, and even people who've worked for many years and have very well-established careers, it can be a very fiercely competitive business. So you are often needing to audition or put yourself out to try to get that work, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I don't believe in auditioning because, I don't believe in competition. I don't look at an audition as an audition. I look at it as an opportunity to act. And I like to act, so why would I be nervous doing that? And I approach it that way so I'm not nervous about it. It's kind of like a job interview. And I find that what I've done for the most of my career is change their minds. And I have a story. I've got a story. I play a character on a Canadian television show called Heartland. And I play Clint Riley. And when the opportunity came up, I read a breakdown, and it said, Clint Riley, 30 years old, 6'5", 250 pounds. And so I called my agent and I asked, can I read for this? And she goes, well, you're not right for it. You're not right for it, Greg. And I go, can you ask them anyway? And they said, yes. I auditioned for it. I got the part. If you can change their minds.
That's a great way to look at it.
And that's really the job, that's my job, because the older I get, it's more challenging to find interesting roles. So I'm concentrating on changing their minds. I don't look at the age, I look at the character. And I go, I wonder if that would be interesting if he were older and still did the same job, And sometimes it is, and sometimes they agree, and sometimes you get the job, and sometimes you don't. I'm done talking.
You're hired.
Now, for you, Greg, too, on the show, it's been wonderful to watch over the multiple seasons now, the way Nedley has grown on all of us, how your role has kind of changed, at least from the fans' point of view, from, someone we saw very much at a distance, we saw her as potentially a problem for our lead, to someone who is now an integral part of that team. Is that something you kind of, as an actor, saw, or is this to you just something that was script by script, you didn't even see it coming?
No, that was writing. It's all the writing. The writing is, it's the writing. They don't tell me very much. I get a script and I open it up, and I've said this before. It's like Christmas. You open it up and you go, "Am I in this? Am I in this episode? If I am, what do I get to do?" And sometimes you're pleasantly surprised. And so I know in the first season he was kind of leaning towards the redneck sheriff that wasn't such a nice guy. I like to try to find humanity in no matter who I'm playing, a certain element of humanity, but I don't know whether that had any effect or whether it was just the writers saying, no, I think we're going to go in this direction. And I think there was a choice of which direction do we go in. And I'm just happy that they chose that direction. The guy who seems relaxed but knows a hell of a lot more than everybody else thinks he does. The guy who plays everything close to the vest. The guy who is quietly confident. I'm glad they went in that direction. It makes it more interesting, to play. But no, I think it was the writing. I can't claim any credit for that. Yeah. I think they just made him more humane then.
Well, I think certainly it was on the page, but you brought it to life, so it's always a wonderful way to see it, that two pieces come together.
I think it'd be interesting to ask Emily that question, because I would also think that sometimes the writers can be influenced by what they're seeing and can also be surprised. So even with
Yeah.
that, they can think they're going down one pathway, and then they start to see what you're potentially bringing. And I think it's true what Greg says. It really depends on the writers too. But if they're also kind of on this journey of where we're going, unless they already have everything, every beat written out that they know. And some jobs are like that, but in this case, often in episodic television, they're writing as they're filming, so that they don't always have everything completed. They might have the flow of a basic outline, but they don't necessarily know every twist and turn. They might, but they don't always necessarily. So they might, I would imagine that this guy surprises them wonderfully, and then they would think, let's try this.
Some actors surprise people by making up their own dialogue and and ad-libbing. Winona Earp. And some actors surprise them by not changing the words, but it's how you say it. And they go, oh, we didn't think of that. You know,
Yeah.
You always, as an actor, you have choices, and I think your job is to bring the most interesting choice because it's economical. You have to be, there isn't a lot of time. You don't get to rehearse. So really, the most interesting, dramatic choice you can make is probably the best one. But your job is to just show your ideas while you're doing it, and the director and the producers and everybody goes, they agree or disagree, you know, or they lead you down that path, or they steer you in another direction. We'd prefer this route, because there are so many ways of delivering a line, so many choices you can make. It takes a team effort to pick the most interesting one. And again, I'm done talking.
Now, in your case, Megan, you didn't have a slow build or anything like that.
No.
You got dropped in,
Yeah.
such a pivotal character, cast that already is got their timing down. Do you do anything special to, so to speak, have to jump into the middle of that pool to be comfortable there?
I think, like Greg said, you commit to a choice. I mean, for me, there were so many backstories and worlds and ramifications and things that I was not, that was new to me. So, I think the first scene, I'm in a prison and there's a demon in my head, so go.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, okay. And that was fun and kind of wild. I tend to like it big and bold, so what the hell? I kind of, I like to play, and it's fun to, and as he was saying, it's really nice to get roles that are interesting, to continue to get roles that are interesting, especially when you've been in the business for a number of years. And I think we're getting better now, also just kind of enjoying our actors as they age and allowing that. Other countries are better at that than they certainly are in the United States. But I would say even Canada sadly follows that example. So, I mean, the Brits have always been great. You can see characters at multiple ages and different times in their life. And they're fascinating and their journey. So to play the mother of these two girls, these two women, who comes with a shitload of complexities, is so much more interesting than something that's very straightforward or something that's off to the side. And I think Emily did a fantastic job.
I'm always hooked on this idea when I look at Nedley in particular, or older characters in a position where if they're a sheriff of a town, I always try to imagine what they were like 30 years ago. And just for Nedley, what was he like 30 years ago, trying to hold on to a town that, even without the demons, is a rough town? So there's this whole idea, and I think it's because I'm getting older. I look at every character and I think, What if he were forced to become the man he used to be? Like, what if he had to, he had no choice but to suck it up and become the guy he was 30 years ago? And if I think of it that way, there's always that little element, even when he's not doing it, there's always that little twinkle. There's a color in the character where it makes people wonder. Just makes the character more full. But I think that's because I'm getting older.
Well, speaking of looking back, and this is obviously just pure speculation since we're not the writers, did either of you think a little bit about what it might have been like way back when the two of you were, in the town in high school or something? Would you have known each other or?
I think it's a pretty small town.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows a little bit of everybody.
Yeah.
If you've had a history in it. Is that fair to say?
And it's clear that you were involved in a rodeo. I had a line of dialogue like that.
Right.
And Natalie wears a bull riding championship buckle as part of his wardrobe. And this is the problem. I've said this before. If you give an actor something like that, even if it's not written, he's going to build his whole character around it.
So this isn't your first rodeo.
It's not my first rodeo. But yeah, that's a really good question. To imagine Purgatory. I feel strongly about one thing that I have in my head, and again, I'm only speculating because it wasn't written. I think that Nedley grew up in the town, but I think he left to learn how to be a cop, and then he came back. Because I think that says more about the character of Nedley than, because I think a lot of people have left Purgatory, and I think the statement of people staying is a strong statement. The people who have chosen to stay, it says a lot about them, instead of running away.
Are you implying something? Wait a minute.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying what everybody's thinking.
Right.
Oh, this didn't go well. I thought it was going to be about parenting.
Well, speaking of going away and coming back, Mama didn't exactly leave on good terms with the Earp girls. If you do come back, have you thought about what that first encounter might be like?
I will be deeply intrigued to see what comes out of that mind, to see how, because it's a little messy. If it wasn't already messy, now it's even messier. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I love characters like that, messy women. It's fun. Again, it's something we have. It's a character trait we've often seen associated with male characters, and we don't brand them the same way. For that, it becomes and we have often a very different reaction when it's a female, particularly a mother. So she's got a lot of demons. She literally had them, and she was doing something for them, but she's got character defects. Character defects are fun to play.
Yeah.
That's where, because we all have them.
Yeah.
I mean, he may have more than
Yeah.
But that's where the meat of a character lies. So I don't know what the hell that Christmas dinner is going to be like, but let's face it, shit.
Well, conflict is interesting. And, whether you're in conflict with yourself, the character, or whether you're in conflict with another character, it's the struggle, it's the resolution of the conflict that is dramatic. If we didn't have conflict, it just wouldn't be as interesting to watch because it wouldn't be as human, I think that was the first thing I was taught in drama school was conflict is dramatic.
Yeah.
So now, especially with this cast, such a dynamic cast that you're both working with here, and you folks have been in the business for a while, are you learning new things still?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the yes, because it's always new in a way, and that's what you want it to be. And that would be the fear that it wouldn't be. So, and it is genuinely new. I mean, for me, it was a completely new environment. So that's always interesting when your players shake up and these journeys, and your show allows for such a kind of extraordinary circumstances that nothing is kind of ho-hum.
No. Yeah. And there's so many different characters and so many different actors. I've found that a lot of the actors work differently. Their process is different. So depending on who you're having a scene with, it's always different. I remember working with, like working with Melanie is not the same as working with, some of the other actors. The process is different. And it's not something you talk about because there's no time. So it's always fun. It's always fun. It could be anything. They could write anything and it would be fun.
Yeah.
Let alone the awesome writing that's in the show. But it could be anything, and it would be fun because you got two people coming at it from different directions.
Now, with your experience as a director, does that change how you work as an actor at all over the years now?
Yes and no. I think they are different hats. So I appreciate that an actor's job, or one of the actor's job, really is to protect their character and their world and their story. So it's a very narrow focus. It's a very deep, narrow focus that an actor has. And a director has to have is responsible for a wider, multi-layered journey of everybody, not just the fierce loyalty here. You have to, you're the conductor. You're not just the note in the score now. So it is a different way you have to think, for sure. That makes sense?
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, Megan.
Oh, God, okay.
It'll make sense once we talk that through
Okay.
a little bit. Just curious to hear your thoughts on carrot cake.
Oh, was that what Jolene was feeding?
No, this is something that
Oh.
Greg has been very vocal on his thoughts on it.
Oh,
Okay, look.
okay.
This is awesome because I get to say it one more time in front of people. Carrot cake is made out of a vegetable. So it shouldn't be called cake. It's not cake. It's a carrot in the shape of a cake. And the icing isn't really icing. It's made of cheese. So if it's chocolate, it's cake. If it's carrot bun or loaf or bread, it just shouldn't be called cake. That's my feeling.
So what about banana bread?
See, banana bread. They
Right.
don't call it cake.
They
They
don't
don't
say-
say have some banana cake. They call it carrot cake. They try to make it look like a cake.
They do.
And they put little carrots on it. Like it's supposed to be delicious. It's
do, you,
not-
do, you, do you like it?
I hate it more than anything.
Okay, I got it.
And
Then you really don't like, what do you think of the icing?
it's made of cheese.
Yeah.
I just don't think they should call it cake.
All right.
See, she didn't know that, and now she thinks poorly of me.
No, I just want to know what you think about red velvet cake.
Oh, well, that's okay.
But the icing's kind of similar. Can be. It's got a bit of a cheesecakey thing going on, doesn't it?
Is there chocolate in it?
Thank you. Yeah.
No chocolate.
No.
Is there no chocolate?
If you really want to piss him off, give him a carrot cake
No.
or a carrot muffin.
They tried to do that in San Diego. They had this dinner. No, I'm serious. They invite you, because they're producers, and you know, and they try to make you feel like you're a television star, and they go, oh,
And they give you a fucking piece of carrot cake?
That's what they did.
Jesus. Show some respect.
That's what they did. No, they got this fancy dinner, big fancy dinner in a fancy restaurant, and they invite you, and everything's great, and you're thinking, oh, geez, I've made it. And then you find out that for dessert, they on purpose ordered carrot cake.
Wow.
You know, oh, Josh. He's a network guy.
And now you see why I was going to ask.
I
I didn't
got
want
it.
you stumbling into that
Thank
without,
you. Thank
without
you
the crowd.
so much.
Yeah, whenever you
so
run
now
out of-
I know how to get his goat.
Yeah, you go.
Run out of stuff to talk about, bring up carrot cake.
Well, then I don't want to leave that bad taste in your mouth. I had to go there, folks. I had to.
Oh, my
On the
God.
more positive vein, Kat wanted to make sure that I asked you about maybe ranking your favorite kinds of Captain Crunch, because I hear you're quite the aficionado.
Another question for me. No. Yeah. Well, I learned about directing when you talked.
Fair enough.
You know what? I'm going out on a limb because I haven't even tried it yet, but I'm going to vote for the Cotton Candy Captain Crunch. Why you can't buy that in Canada, I don't know. What's the problem? That's it. That's my answer. Cotton Candy Captain Crunch. Okay, the Captain Crunch that's very berry and oops, we forgot the Captain Crunch. It's just the berries. That's not Captain Crunch. It's just another cereal. It's just the berry stuff. But the Captain Crunch with the berries, that's Captain Crunch. And that's pretty good too. I'm going to say the Cotton Candy Captain Crunch.
Okay. I knew that was important. Good. All right.
But I have 4 boxes of it, so
Yeah, I heard a rumor you were trying to import it.
I got to drop 30 pounds, seriously.
We have a ton of great fan questions, so I'm going to kind of throw these out to you folks, kind of different topics here. But one of the questions that came in from Teach Earp wanted to know that if your characters could give your own kids one piece of advice, what would it be?
I was going to go somewhere like, don't sleep with your sibling's father. Over to you.
I'm really. This is awesome. Nedley would tell his daughter, loyalty above all else, except honor. And I think that's better advice than.
Okay.
Don't sleep with your. That's hysterical.
Question for you, Greg, from Joan was wondering, would you like to see on screen a meeting between Nedley and Nicole's parents?
You know what? That was brought up at a panel, and I was sitting there, and they were talking about the wedding, and someone mentioned, what if Nicole's parents showed up at the wedding? And yeah, I'd like to see it because conflict is always dramatic. I would like to see that. Yeah.
Is the wedding cake carrot cake?
Yeah. Now there's conflict.
How would you like to see him handle that?
Well, I'm not a writer. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But really, it all goes back to who lets a little girl go into the woods to see a music festival all by herself? Who does that? What kind of parent does that? And that goes back to when Nedley found her as a little girl after the big massacre. You know, it's her parents' fault that she was there in the first place. She shouldn't have been there alone. So that's how strongly he feels about it. Whether it depends on whether Nedley's a slow burn or a hot explosive piece of dynamite. It depends on his temper. One thing that I've always wanted, actors fantasize. We don't write the show. We sit at home and fantasize about our characters. And I would love for an episode to happen where the only thing you see about Nedley is him counting to 10. Someone talks to him, and he's in the middle of counting to 10. And you see, he hits 10, everything's fine, goes away. And then there's a scene at the end where he hits 10. Nope. and it didn't work that time. And then we get to see Nedley lose his temper. Because that, to me, is just, well, it's just something Greg wants to play. Someone exploding. Because, again, that's to me, that's interesting. Someone who knows they have a bad temper, they got a rein on it, they have a trick that they use. No, didn't work that time. Boom,
I want to see that now.
Maybe the two of you could talk a little bit about, for you so far in the stuff you've done for the show, maybe what's been the most challenging scene for you to do?
Just one?
Well,
Wow, yeah.
something that sticks out to you, or
I think, just honestly jumping into the world at first was challenging for sure. The character was challenging because, especially when the demon was inside my head. So I was having conversations. People thought I was having conversations with myself, but I was actually having conversations with the force that was trapped inside me. So Michelle's acting out, but in her mind, she's actually there's a two-way dialogue. We're just not privy to the other side of the dialogue. So often then when the lines were written, I'd have to think about what the other side of that dialogue was. Why was I saying that? I wasn't just saying that, I was answering something. So that was, like Greg saying, kind of that making up that work that you have to do to figure out what, and that was tricky. Mm-hmm. And trippy. Yeah.
Nedley has something that I've latched on to is that Nedley has that sort of country old homeboy kind of manner where he's doing one thing but pretending he's doing another at the same time. It's like that thing of telling someone you love that you love them. You're saying, I love you, but you're not using those words. You're saying, maybe the dialogue is, well, then, there you go. But what you're really saying is, I love you. And I think I kind of found more of that in the scene in the morgue when he's watching over Dawes' body, and Winona comes in. And then you hear Nedley say a little word of wisdom, but what he's really trying to do is comfort her. And that's what I discovered in that scene. It's when someone says, I was thinking, if you're in the position where you have to save the world, you kind of have to be a little selfish. And if his objective for saying that to Winona is trying to comfort her and ease her pain. So that's the most challenging thing, is when the actual words are one thing, but there's more meaning behind them, and emotional meaning. Like if all you're doing is trying to give someone advice, but what's coming out is you're revealing to them how much you really care about them. It's kind of that phony, be a man kind of stuff, Men don't behave that way. So I'm not going to behave that way. I'm not going to cry. but you are crying on the inside. That's the most challenging thing. It's like this, as like for an actor. But it's also the most fun thing because you get to try to do two things instead of just one. You know, it's impossible to do two things at the same time. But it is possible to do one thing and then the other, 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 so fast that it looks like you're doing it at the same time. And that's challenging.
Very good. Ingrid had a question, kind of related, but slightly different for the two of you. For you, Megan, she was curious, talking about how we always hear parenting is tough, but it's when you get to be a grandparent that you then sometimes get to have more fun at it. So she was curious your thoughts of what you might visualize for the time comes if you get to be, grandma, and how you might either help or hurt Winona in that venture.
Yeah, I don't know how comfortable she's going to be leaving me to look after the kid. Might be a great opportunity to make a living amends and do it better this time, That would be the goal. I don't know that it might. I don't know that I'd be successful in that. It depends on how honest Mama gets, or how self-aware she is. I don't know how she seems to really flip-flop with self-awareness and complete lack of self-awareness. I would think that's probably all those years of having that demon in her head. She's still got some rewiring to do there. But I guess there's that and that mother-daughter thing. I think that's great because I think sometimes you've got the buffer of the one generation. So even if you're an outrageous grandparent or you're unreliable or unpredictable, you're not the mother. So you get a little get out of jail card in your pocket. I think that could really piss Winona off. That's what I think that would do. Right.
I guess there would be that sense of you can sort of visit and then go home.
Yeah.
Here's your candy. Don't you love me? No, I'm going home.
Right.
You deal with them trying to get them to bed.
Yeah.
I don't know very much about parenting. I can't speak for Nedley. I don't know. I can't even speculate it because I can't fantasize it on my own as Greg. So I have no ideas, but I can tell you that.
Now, Greg, you're an actor.
No,
so
no,
put
yeah,
your
yeah.
actor's hat on and imagine that you're a parent.
Yeah, it'd be great. No, but like when my sister had her kids, my niece and my nephew, I can tell you that it changed my parents to the point where they not only they looked at me differently, because when you see children with someone, it changes your perspective. You go, if that little kid trusts that guy, then he must be okay. Because little children, I know, are honest. If they have like a sixth sense. If they don't like a person, then they don't like it. It's like little dogs. If a little dog doesn't like you, you're doing something.
They know.
Nedley's just so protective about everybody. He's got this mental condition. It's like the white knight syndrome. He tries to protect everything. If there's a little kid in the room, Nedley, I think the protection level would double and redouble. I think he's a soft spot for young people.
Do you think he'd do okay taking care of Calamity Jane if he had to?
Yeah. I think Calamity Jane takes care of him. I think that, I think that's the comfort that he gets being around, having a chance to be sensitive, towards a little cat. But he wouldn't let anybody see him do that. But yeah, he'd get a kick out of it.
Erpaholic had a question here, might get a little deeper for you folks. Was curious to know if you could have lunch with one person, living or dead, who would it be?
I don't eat lunch. I don't even know how. Wow. Okay, whoever put the giant stone heads on Easter Island, I want to know how they got there.
Oh, that's a good one.
I want to know. Wait a minute. How? How'd you do that? Oh my God, that's how they did that.
See, this is the problem with following Megan. No, because the answer immediately popped into my head, and then she did something brilliant, and now I'm trying to change my answer so I'll sound smart. But I'm just going to say the first thing that hit my head, James Stewart. I don't know why, but he's like just so likable. And yeah, it would be James Stewart. I want to ask him about what it was like to work with Dean Martin in that Western Bandolero. But that's not as good as your answer.
No, but no. It's not going to answer like a serious mystery and wonder of the world, but enjoy your lunch with Jimmy Stewart.
Well, I don't know. Have you ever met James Stewart?
He might know a thing or two. Yep. Fair enough.
One thing I'd like to point out, folks, is please be sure this weekend to thank all of the volunteers and the staff people who are making this convention possible this weekend. And I'd like to thank Megan and Greg. Thank you very much, folks. Enjoy the rest of your con.
Thank you.